Just say.
Good
Thank
morning.
you
Oh
very much for
no, I just
listening, guys.
realized I've
You can
got
find
this.
Yammers on.
That's what that
I'm
was.
Unforged on
Media source.
YouTube,
Turn off,
Facebook, and
Adam. Shut up.
Instagram. You can
All
find
right.
Alex.
What a start with a failure. Happy Halloween, everybody. Good morning. Um, we have a chill, fun episode. Episode. Okay, that's like something you get to go to Applebee's and they're like, we have our episodes, Coffee. Let me restart that thought here. Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yes, it's 2 days to Halloween. It is the most wonderful time of the year, and but we're gonna go ahead and call this the Halloween shows and episodes today. So hello, Eric. Hello, Trail Dust. Oh my God, who's Trail Dust? I've never seen that name. It's usually Turtle Dirtle or something. Mr. Benny Boy Toombs. We've got Shane Lalonde. We've got, I already said hello to Eric. Jeff Killian, Jack Black. We've got The Rock. We've got Kevin Hart and Pierce Morgan all in the chat today. Good morning. So no, none of those names are real. Okay. Bots
Or good
be
evening.
gone. Yes, or good evening, depending on your proclivities. Is that the right word I'm thinking? Or is today just going to be one of those days where I mess up every word?
Yep.
Behold the power of his lips. I see you getting there, getting that rolling paper ready. Yeah, today's going to be a fun one. So, yeah, pop in, say hi, and what up, Matthew? And yeah, today we are talking about. No, I skipped a part. See, okay, this kind of falls into the "How was your week" thing. Yes, so that's what we're doing. How was your week? Alexis couldn't be here. Work called or work thing, and like crazy storm. Starlink is out. And just insanity down there in Texas, apparently. So, we got this,
Yep, you just were stuck with us tonight.
Yeah. Well, Adam is
Or today.
Rolling a J, so I'm gonna let are you able to talk while you roll that beautiful bean footage?
While I roll this. Yeah. No, it's not a J, it's a cigarette.
Yeah, it is. That's what they all say. It's a cigarette, officer.
It's
I swear.
Regular tobacco.
It's just a cigarette, officer. I swear.
I can actually roll cigarettes. But how was my week? My week was actually my fortnight. So my 2 weeks. For those of you that don't speak English, those you speak American. My fortnight, my 2 weeks. A lot of people won't get that joke, Yamis, and I'm not explaining it. So my 2 weeks has been absolutely flat hammer. So, like I said on the last episode that I was on, so 2 weeks ago, I had an order for some didgeridoo chisels, which I didn't get finished until Monday last week. So after our show. And of course, I had to organise to get them shipped off to the customer. So Monday, Tuesday, I was working on them. Had to go see the shipping company, get them all booked in and stuff like that. And that was my regular work week. So knocking off on work and first thing in the morning because I work nights and heading off to do that. And then this week, if those of you that follow my Instagram and my Facebook may have seen, so Wednesday I actually had a student come out, so young gentleman by the name of Wilson. We went live for a little bit as well. Did some live forging, I think. Yeah, we did. So Wilson has the aspiration that he wants to eventually become an armor smith. He wants to make armor. So he's a really, really enthusiastic young man. And of course, as we all know, doesn't matter if you're armor smithing or regular blacksmithing or knife smithing or whatever. It's all, the basic skills that you learn are applicable to them all. So he's been coming out to learn from me. So this week on Wednesday, I had him doing. So the first time we come out, I made some leaves and some. We did some leaves with him and did some brass brushing and stuff like that, because having Wilson come out is actually doing two things for me. It's one, it is really tightening up. Well, it's actually doing a couple of things for me, but it's really tightening up my ability to show and tell what I'm doing, and having someone else pick up on it. It's also helping me tighten up the lessons and the lesson plan. And I do that in inverted commas lesson plan they're putting into the Practical Blacksmith, the Blacksmith Companion, sorry. And so, there'll be lessons or a flow of of techniques and stuff like that in the book that I'm writing. And this is really helping me cement, what projects should come first and follow on and flow through that. It also, Wilson eventually wants to, work with me a little bit more often. So getting him into the Forge Fitness himself and being able to set him up, eventually setting him up a little bit of a workspace out here so I can go, hey, I need you to do this. Off you go. Kind of, someone, I think it was Ben Toombs that suggested it, kind of, because he's been live on my YouTube channel now. It's like a Thomas Goodymoot situation on Christ and Fireworks, where Wilson's going to take over my channel and everyone wants to know where he's at and what he's doing. So that was fun. But yeah, so this last time we come out, I had him working on leaves, so working on isolation and tapering and drawing out. This time we mainly worked on a couple of hooks so that he could do a controlled bend as well as tapering and drawing out. We also worked on squaring off, because I got him to do a square hook so that he could do a twist in it. So we worked on twisting as well as bending. And at the end of the day, then we actually started working on some tooling for him. So we actually did a round punch, because eventually when we get into making tongs and stuff like that, he's going to need a round punch, of course, to punch the rivet in the boss. So yes, got him in. We got him into the tapering, straightening out some coil spring, and then working on tapering to a specific dimension, and then of course we worked on the heat treat as well. Now, those of you that have actually seen some of my tools, I try and actually make my punches and stuff ovaloid as opposed to round. I flatten out two sides so that it actually ends up being ovaloid. That does the two things. First of all, it helps you index when you pick up the punches, if they're square or round, or doesn't matter. But also the main reason why is because when you put it on the anvil, the bloody thing doesn't roll away. There's nothing worse than trying to chase after a punch that's rolled off your anvil. So
that's
I try
my
and
favorite
flatten them
activity.
out. That's why I flatten them out, because I hate looking for one of the things, because I've got a dirt floor, so when things hit the floor they get covered in dirt, and looking around trying to find what tool you just dropped because it's been now camouflaged into dirt is absolutely annoying. So I try to make them a little bit flat so I can put them on the anvil and they don't roll away. That's, and then on the Tuesday, just before Wilson got here, so Wilson was here on Wednesday, I actually got an order for 11 awards stands. So these are stands that, I've got a woodworker that I'm building a relationship with. He does, customized plaques and stuff like that. And so he actually had an order for 11 awards to go out, and they all need made of wood, and they all need stands to go on. So he contacted me and said, really rush job, can you do these for me? So my working on my knife got suspended because it's a paid job as opposed to a non-paid one. So it was kind of like, yep, nope, I've got to get onto that. So that was on I couldn't start it on Wednesday, of course, because I had Wilson here. So I started that Thursday and I finished them today. So I had 10 small ones and one large one. and yeah, I finished them off today. So they're all blackened, they're all brass brushed. They've got leaf finials on the bits that actually hold the award, and then the stands are blackened, and they'll be dropped off to the customer tomorrow. So. But that's one of the things that, for me, I've built a relationship with him now that I know I'm going to get more work for him in the future. So actually on Thursday afternoon, after I did I did a couple of the stands. I actually took one round to his workshop to make sure that that the awards would actually fit, that I'd met the right dimensions and stuff like that, just a test fit. And he's already got, for next year, there's a lady that wants that has him making a table, refurbishing an old timber table and doing some timber inlays and stuff like that. And she's already expressed to him that she wants some wrought legs for this table. So that's going to be a fairly lucrative job. Going into, I already know I have that in the back pocket for next year. So it pays to build relationships. If you can find a woodworker like that does custom jobs, and you can build a relationship with them and say, hey, I'm a blacksmith, I can do this for you. It pays to do that, because I now know that, going into the future, he's going to give me a little bit more lead time than the job that he had, because he only got it this week as well, with a bit of a rush job for him. So, but he knows in the future, give me a little bit more lead time. We're going to be working together, and it's going to be a beneficial part. And then also this week, I've done a bit of designing, because I got a gentleman that is that runs strongman competitions actually got in contact with me. They're doing next year. They're doing a charity event, and he wanted me to make the trophy, or potentially make a trophy. So I had to do some designs and send them through to him, and I'm just waiting to hear back from him on what he likes. Few different ideas about that, so tying in with the theme of the charity event and stuff like that. So yeah, so it's been an absolutely hectic week. I'm still kind of hoping I might be able to get a knife done for the Sam Towns Bowie build off. I'm not really holding my breath, because of course I'm doing it all by hand. I did go out and buy a 100 mil wide. So what's that? That's a 4-inch belt sander, because that's all I can get here in Australia, where I am. In order to try and help me kind of finish it off, but I don't know if I'm going to, it is now the midnight on the 29th, and I've got until midnight on the 1st. So I've got about 2 days to get these knives finished, and I don't know if and I've got work in that period too. So I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. I've got about a sum total about 6 hours to get these knives finished, unless I go with lack of sleep. And my beauty sleep's important, because I'm such a beautiful person.
I've been missing a lot of sleep lately. I've got to get better with time management.
Yep. No, that's it. So, what about yourself, Yamez? How was your week?
First off, let me get to my stacked set of comments and jokes about what you said. First, Ben brought up a good point. And I'll an official kind of welcome. If your apprentice / student would ever like to be on the show to give a perspective of somebody that is just getting into it and learning and whatnot, is more than welcome. Okay? Never feel that he's not welcome. Number 2.
No, absolutely.
Here's my merkin. And yeah. So
let the people know, watching and listening know.
Nope.
So I'm actually on to get on the show, I'm on Discord, and so I actually watch the just like most of the people watching when we live stream this. I watch the YouTube, and it's about 15 seconds behind what we're actually saying and talking about. So there's a little bit of a delay in my reaction, because I've got to wait until I see it on the screen. So yes, Yamas did give a hint on what a merkin is, and again, I'm not going to explain because I
Okay.
know what it is. Go Google it later. On the note of Wilson coming on the show, I work my regular job with Wilson. Of course, as most people know, I know as I said earlier in this
He's a sex phone operator.
episode, yeah, basically. But I'm permanent night, so I work 7 days on, 7 days off, night shift only. Wilson is a day one that works for the same company, but he works day shift. So he works 40 hours a week, 5 days on, 2 days off. And so getting him on the show is going to be a matter of if he ever has a Sunday night off and is able to, jump on a computer at his home. So because he won't be out here because he has a wife and child. So and we stream at midnight my time or thereabouts. So having him out here at this time of night is unfair on his lovely partners and children. So not going to do that to the poor bloke. So but yes, I will broach it with him when I see him at work, and let him know the invitation's there, because that would actually be a really interesting conversation in general for the wider community, I reckon. And of
Right.
course our listeners.
Absolutely. As for my week, and then I guess we'll end the show. For my week, you feel okay, so I did remember something. I've had an insane week. I've got 4 orders to go out from the shop, most of which is stuff that I have already made. So like, yeah. And it's been, all of these orders came in the last 4 days. A pile of bricks that I made, like little brick desk toys that I made. They're really neat. A rose, tentacle bottle opener, and some doubloons, some of the coins that I had made last year. And a pair of stainless steel chopsticks that I have made. Finally got paid for, and I'm actually like a while late sending them out. But yeah, so big shipping day coming up. So had a bonfire on Friday. Brother and sister-in-law came over. They stayed, they hung out, they got drunk, we had fun. It was a blast. Work has been work. Finished up a job. Woohoo for that. And then I know that you guys don't particularly know, like, or care about crypto, but basically this in this past week or so, I know I mentioned a little bit of it last week, that I kind of am working on a project with somebody. Like, we actually have a plan that we are implementing on that, and it's like core team on that, and it's gonna, if we can pull it off, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. And then with that, I've actually gotten tagged and requested, offered to be core team of 2 other upcoming projects, and it's like, yeah, I will do whatever to help my friends. And like, my whole crypto experience is, it's getting deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and I'm having a blast with it. Yeah, I like today, almost like immediately after this show, I've got a crypto gaming event that I am hosting, and like basically I have to wrangle a bunch of people and get them all over there, blah 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 blah, and then game, and then a meeting after that to discuss our next plan, and then Monday is a meeting to discuss, potential hiring of new people, like this, that, everything. It's like, oh my God. I've been on the phone. I've been on, on meetings, like almost every single night till like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm exhausted, but I wouldn't do it any other way. So, without going too much into the crypto aspect of it, just like that's what I've been doing. It's just been, I get out to do something in the shop, and it's like, oh, got to do this, oh, got to do that. So and so's calling about this. It's like, oh, let's get it going. So, yeah, fun stuff. With that, my week comparatively is pretty boring. What, 4 minutes to 20 minutes? Yeah. I'm just, some
just
people live richer lives than me.
Gift of the gab.
Some people, I do too, but some people, there's also a lot of stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about publicly yet.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So I was just saying, if it's getting colder for you guys, it seems from some of the reports I'm getting, and of course we know Alexis is rained out, so that's kind of a sign of winter in Texas, so I hear. But this week for me it's also been 38 to 41 degrees Celsius here, which equates to 100 to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. It's been stinking hot. The other day when I was working, started at 8:30, and by 9, I was head to toe drenched, just from perspiration. So I've been drinking on average about 8 liters of water a day just to keep my fluids up. It's been ridiculous, 80% humidity. So yeah, that's been interesting, but it's good to see you guys actually getting into some cooler weather. It means that a lot of you will be able to get back out to your workshops and do something in a little bit more comfortable weather for you.
Right.
But on that note, let's move into today's topic. We're stepping away from blacksmithing a little bit because it is the best time of the year.
It is the best holiday in the world
for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are talking. I guess that's my cue. We're just gonna sit here and chat about candy for the next 45 minutes or 40 minutes, 35 minutes. No, so like, what's your favorite Halloween candy? Is it Babe Ruth or is it Nerds? I know everybody goes for Nerds, but what people really really like is a package of Kleenex put in their. No, I'm just kidding. We're talking like history of Halloween and like the mythology surrounding Halloween, and stuff like that, and it's gonna be fun because I love Halloween and. I grew up. I was, like I said last week, I was put in a cage, with fake blood covering me, and told to shake the cage when the kids would walk by. So, I love Halloween. It reminds me of comfort.
and on technicality, a lot of people might not know this, but Halloween. There's a lot of stories and folk tales about. Even the one of the ways folklore is about how jack-o'-lanterns became a thing revolves around the devil. So the funny thing is there is actually a loose tie to blacksmithing and the devil, and therefore kind of Halloween is actually kind of the blacksmith's holiday. Mm-hmm. Because of that link, that supernatural link between the Smith and the devil. There's actually two stories, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I'll let Yames start off with if you want to talk about your favorite candy. Well, why don't you talk about why trick or treating is a thing?
Do
you even know?
I'm actually like, this is rare for me. I know I've got like an extensive knowledge of Halloween. It's just like I literally am like I'm empty head, no thoughts right now. Oh my god. It's like, no, how okay. I don't know. I think my brain locked up because it's like I was thinking of a joke to like ease into it, and then like that joke became my reality, and now I think it's because in the past, the veil of the between the living and the dead is the thinnest during Halloween, and that's hence you get like the celebration, the De los de la Muerte and such as that, and all the harvest celebrations for the end of the planting season, beginning, the harvesting seasons and all that stuff, or not end of the planting seasons, the end of the harvesting season, preparing for winter and everything, and the autumn equinox, and so what would happen is all the ghouls and ghosts and goblins and demons would come from the land of the dead, and to appease them, you would put treats and snacks on your door to keep them from killing you. But I can't remember if that was the joke or bent reality to make a joke. My brain like literally locked up on that thought. Adam, how close was I?
I have no idea. I don't know the
Oh
story
my
of
god.
I
Oh
was
my
hoping you
god.
could actually enlighten me on why trick or
I
treating the
mean,
thing.
I could do a real quick Google search just to like remind my brain, but I do know this stuff.
All right. Well. How? Whilst you do that, how about I get in the story of jack-o'-lanterns, and then later on we can go to the go into the why it's linked to blacksmiths.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so as you know, the making of jack-o'-lanterns is centuries old. It's something that goes back, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So one version of the practice is actually linked to an old Irish tradition. And this story first appeared in print in the 19th century, so in the 1800s. But it's the story has been told in folklore for centuries in Ireland. So it's actually about a man called Stingy Jack. So it's where the Jack in the jack-o'-lantern come from. So, according to the story, Stingy Jack met the devil at a bar, of course, being Irish, and invited the devil to have a drink. Now, true to his name, Stingy Jack didn't want to pay for his drink. So, with the gift of the gab, like the Irish have, Stingy Jack managed to convince the devil to turn himself into a coin that Jack could use to buy their drinks. Now, the devil did this and but Jack, of course, being true to his name, decided to keep the money and put it into a pocket next to a silver cross. Now, this prevented the devil from changing back into his original form. Now, Jack did eventually free the devil under the condition that he wouldn't bother him for 1 year. And should Jack die, he would not claim his soul. So the next year, when the devil came back to claim Jack, Jack tricked him into climbing into a tree to pick a piece of fruit. While he was up in the tree, Jack carved the cross into the tree's bark so that the devil couldn't come down until the devil promised not to bother Jack for another 10 years. Now, in that remaining 10 years, Jack died. And so the legend goes that God wouldn't let such an unsavory figure into heaven, being a trickster and a miser. And the devil, upset by Jack's trick, the trick that Jack played on him twice, decided that he would keep his word and not claim his soul, and therefore wouldn't allow Jack into hell. So he sent Jack off into the dark with only one burning coal to light his way. Jack put the coal into a carved-out turnip and has roamed the earth ever since. And thus the Irish began to refer to this ghostly figure as Jack of the Lantern, then simply Jack-o'-lantern. So that's where the name Jack-o'-lantern comes from. So this story The story likely grew on a parallel etymology of the term jack-o'-lantern as akin to the will-o'-the-wisp, a mysterious light seen in wooded or swampy areas at night, and sometimes with natural causes, other times a result of mischievous children lighting lanterns. So, will-o'-the-wisp, of course, are a story that's come from Scotland, and jack-o'-lantern, of course, comes from Ireland. So, and of course, both cultures began to make their own versions of jack-o'-lanterns by carving scary faces into turnips and other root vegetables and gourd-like vegetables, including pumpkins, and put them in windows or nearby doors to frighten away Stingy Jack and other evil wandering spirits. In England, large beets were used, and immigrants from those countries brought their vegetable carving traditions with them when they came to the United States, helping change American pumpkin carving from a general autumn pastime into one uniquely associated with Halloween, the best time of year. So that's the you can carve a potato.
Yeah.
You probably could. A yam would probably be really cool.
Yeah. And I actually also I was partially correct in my insane ramblings at the beginning. So yay for Yames's brain being able to pull something out of his. Never mind. To Halloween candy from turnips. Actually, I will say I do love the story of jack-o'-lanterns, you know, like the Jack of the Lanterns and all of that. I love old folklore like that. It's just, reminds me of my childhood. But yeah, so, now I will say this, with, and to not start a fight or anything, but the kind of Catholicism takeover of so many traditions of, you know, times gone by, it's, you know, the history of things are very muddled. All right. But where is it at? Halloween would have began as something, you know, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, Samhain as it's spelled, and some people call it Samhain, Samhain, is a Celtic spring festival honoring the souls of the dead who still walked the earth. To avoid being seen by these ghouls, you would disguise yourself as one and prevent them from bothering you. And to prevent them from bothering you, you would leave food at your front door. And that evolved over time. You know, one such food may have been a soul cake, a popular treat in Britain, Ireland, and Germany during the Middle Ages. It traces back to at least the 1200s. Soul cakes were made with saffron, currants, and other expensive spices meant to honor the dead. Is a soul cake. Eventually, they became a treat for poor beggars who would knock on the doors of, you know, wealthier folks, offering to pray for their dead in return for tasty treats. They would say, a soul cake, have mercy on all Christian souls for a soul cake. And that, you know, some people like the, you know, they attribute the invention of the donut to soul cakes. Obviously now we have different types of donuts, but yeah. So when you think of what's a soul cake, it's, you know, essentially a fancy old-fashioned donut. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it eventually shifted, you know, All Hallows Eve eventually shifted into autumn to incorporate the end of summer harvest traditions and the foods and all that stuff. And it kind of helps tie in because Dios de la Muerte, you know, is an old, I can't remember if it's Spanish in nature or if it is Central American, South American in its history. I legit can't remember. Anyway, but yeah, that was to celebrate the autumn equinox when the veil between the living and the dead is the thinnest. And so like it's almost like that like reshuffling of all traditions as the major religions started to spread. It all got reshuffled and organized to make everything a little bit more centralized, so to speak.
And another I was gonna say another thing that ties into that into the whole the treats and stuff like that is another old Irish tradition of Samhain, which is the I can't remember the name of the character, but it's a horse-headed figure that would come and knock on your door, and basically it was a trick or treat thing, and this horse-headed figure,
I did
and
hear
it's
about that.
supporting characters would come, and you would either have to treat them by singing a song or telling a joke, or if they didn't, they'd come in and drink all your beer.
Right.
So it was something along that line, So if you didn't trick them or treat them, you would they would come in and drink all your beer, which of course is a uniquely Irish thing to do. So yeah, it's I find and that I think that also evolved, of course, when
Mary
these
Lou.
cultures came to the okay.
Hold on, wait. No, that's not it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I think that also evolved into when it came to So you had the dressing up to avoid ghouls, presenting the food and the soul cake to the coal cakes and stuff like that to on the Day of the Dead, and also these traditions of these wandering people coming around and knocking on your doors and wanting to be entertained, or they come and drink your beer. So exactly, you don't want to end up beerless. So it's I think, and it's kind of testimony to the old and still modern and evolving United States of America, but particularly that time where when a lot of cultures were moving to the new world, and that mixing pot that America was culturally, where all these traditions that these different groups have now merged into this one, wouldn't say homogenous, but this one ever evolving, tradition that is now, for the most part, uniquely American. We don't celebrate here in Australia Halloween like you guys do. It's not a thing. It's starting to pick up in certain parts of Australia, in the sense of going out trick or treating and whatnot, but that's not part of the Australian culture. It is very much, and I know people in my brother lives in the UK, and I have friends in Europe, and that's not really the way the US celebrates Halloween. It's not something that it is absolutely uniquely American, the way you guys celebrate Halloween. Of course, that through movies and television and pop culture, that has bled over into the rest of the world. And of course, there's someone that's that is Celtic or pagan as my belief system. It is something that I do celebrate, albeit at the wrong time of the year. Because for me, Samhain or Hallows Eve is actually what around the time that you guys would celebrate Easter, because our seasons are flipped. Our harvest, our harvest season is at the start of the year for us, and this is technically this is Ostra or Easter. Because it's coming into spring for us. So, but because it's like Christmas, celebrating at this time of year, because that's tradition. It's also, it ties in with the rest of the world. It'd be a little bit weird to celebrate it at the other end of the year. So, but yeah, so it's just interesting to see all these different stories and cultures mixing into what has now become Halloween in the US. Yes, perspiring is part of the Australian culture. So is the Australian salute. So those people that haven't seen the Australian salute, it goes like this, right? and that's because you're waving away flies. So, on to how Halloween. There's two stories on how Halloween ties into blacksmithing. Now, has anyone heard of the story of the blacksmith and the devil?
I have.
Hands up.
I have, and it's a great movie too.
So there's actually two stories about blacksmith and the devils. Now, so I'll read the story. So this is the most common one that I'm aware of. So, and then the other one is about an American blacksmith. So we'll get to that in a minute. So, on a summer day, a blacksmith is tending his fire and getting ready for the day's work. The blacksmith, a giant man with huge arms that effortlessly arc with every swing, and twisting and turning of steel red from the heat of his forge. And you could hear his anvil ring as the steel and iron moved under the hammer. The sound of the hammering and ringing of the anvil drew the attention of the devil. On this summer's day, who had walked a long ways and causing havoc with every step. As his journey slowed into the evening twilight, his fork-like feet became sore with the efforts, and the blacksmith seemed like the answer to his problems. Of course, the devil, having seen a stately gentleman on a fine horse, having had the horse just been shod and trotted away very happily, the devil decided to see this blacksmith to treat himself to a pair of shoes. And the blacksmith said to the devil, "I need your attention. My feet are sore, and I need a set of shoes built for me now." The blacksmith, hearing the devil, having heard the devil, and with apprehension and fear thinking, said, "I don't want to be known as the one who builds shoes for the devil, but I fear the rage that lies within him." So the blacksmith agrees to build the devil his shoes. "Come back tomorrow and I'll have them ready. And they'll be like no shoes you've ever seen before. They'll be fantastic for all to see. Come back tomorrow and they'll be ready for you." So all night you could hear his mighty blows against the anvil as the blacksmith formed the shoes for the devil. With great pride, he pounded the iron with every swing of the hammer. Nothing less than perfect would leave his shop. All night the hammering went on and on. All night the fear of the devil lived inside the blacksmith's heart. The morning came, and with that came the devil. "I'm here for the shoes you've promised me," says the devil. "Now deliver or suffer the consequences and meet your fate." Without stutter or hesitation, as the blacksmith is wont to do, the blacksmith stepped up. "I'm ready for you, devil. Your shoes are here. As you can see, they are nothing like anything anyone else has ever seen." The devil looks upon the shoes with pride of gazing upon something new and wondrous. "I can't wait. Put them on now. I want everyone to see me and fear my step." "Devil," the blacksmith said kindly, "would you please place your foot upon the stand, and I will nail each shoe to set it securely on your hoof-like feet." So now the devil is known for his wily tricks, but this blacksmith had one of his own. Blacksmith took each shoe and placed it snugly on the devil's foot and started to hammer the nails that hold the shoe against the foot. But he was holding the foot the wrong way. Then he, driving the nails into the pith of the foot. There's the quick, that's what it's called. Driving the nails into the quick. He reversed the nails to drive into the sole of the devil's feet. At first, the devil felt no pain, just soreness from the hammer. "Now the job is done," the blacksmith says. The devil looked upon his feet with pride. "They're a bit sore," says the devil. "Don't worry," the blacksmith replied. "The pain will go away. Just give it a day." And he sends the devil on his way. A day goes by, and the devil's pain is great. And as each nail begins festering inside the horn of the hoof of the foot. With each step and each passing day, the devil cries in pain as the festering deepens, turning his feet black with decay and white pus. The villagers only laugh at him in his pain. With all of his might, the devil cannot remove the shoes. Despite his efforts, he can't find relief from the steps that await him. The shoes are firmly attached. Those shoes upon his feet promise pain with each step that awaits. The blacksmith stokes his fire. His hammer rings against the anvil as he brings music to the valley. The devil doesn't approach the village, leaving it in peace and happiness. The devil knows now to fear the blacksmith. So if you're ever looking to bring good luck, and that's the reason why you hang a horseshoe above your door, and the horseshoe above a house will always be pointing up, and the horseshoe above a forge should always be pointing down. That's the reason is because the village catches of luck to pour on the blacksmith's workshop. So that explains why that tie-in with the Jack of the Lantern and the devil. And then, of course, the blacksmith and the devil, because the blacksmith is the only other person besides Jack of the Lantern that has ever tricked the devil. So while you're in your forge, you always face with good luck.
I believe when the devil went down to Georgia, he got tricked out of a golden fiddle.
Yeah, but
Johnny
that was a fiddle player.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was a fiddle player. And he was the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, see, what I take away from that story is it took the blacksmith all night to make a set of 2 horseshoes.
He was the devil of cloven hoof, right? So really, they were ox shoes.
Yes, ox shoes. Okay, which have a little bit of a twist to them.
Yes, a little bit
and
different.
They have to have a little bit of flex, so I'm sure there was hinges and contraptions.
Mm-hmm. And they were the best shoes that had ever been made.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Even though we say horseshoes, I think they were ox shoes, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
But yeah. So, time for you to interject with a story there, Yames. Because I've got another one about devils and stuff like that and blacksmiths.
I like turtles. You
like turtles? Is there any Halloween turtle related Halloween? I mean, apart from the skeleton turtles in Super Mario.
I once was a Ninja Turtle for Halloween.
Okay. I got nothing, dude. That's
But yeah, no, I honestly got nothing, and I do apologize because half of me is keeping an eye on the clock because I have a meeting that starts in half an hour. But yeah.
Well, I can continue with the next story. It's Halloween story time with Adam and Yamas.
Yeah.
Although I seem to be doing most of the talking tonight.
So I've talked.
You complain when I talk too much, and then you got nothing to back it
up.
Yeah,
we complain when you talk too much, and then we rely on you for talking too much.
Exactly.
Yeah. So talk too much.
All right. So this is a story as told by Alan Longmire. If you want to find this story, I recommend you head on over to the wonderful website anvilfire.com. It's this is not sponsored, of course, but I have been going to Anvil Fire many times over the years. It's a great resource of knowledge. It's an older website. I believe it's still updated. There is a great community there. I'm not an actual member. I haven't signed in, but they've got a lot of resources on there that are really good to look through and peruse. If you have. If you're like me and you kind of going down rabbit holes of I wouldn't say research, but I get absolutely lost in looking at things for blacksmithing. But this is a wonderful story that is told by Alan Longmire. This is a uniquely American folktale. So this is it's a southern Appalachian folktale. So once upon a time, there was a blacksmith named John Smith. He was known as a stern fellow, and since he didn't like to be bothered while he was working, he always shooed away the children who gathered at the door of the shop to watch the sparks fly. And woe betide the person who dared touch his hammer. John wasn't really a mean man. He just wanted folks to leave him and especially his tools alone. We all know what that's like. Don't touch my hammers. One day, an old man came down the road and stopped at his shop. It was a really hot day, and of those where the heat waves off the road, and it makes it hard to see from side to side. When the road is dirt and only 10 feet wide, well, John took pity on the old man and asked him to come in the shop and sit down, and gave him a big frosty cold glass of lemonade. Since it wasn't a busy day in the shop, John even told a few stories and played the fiddle while the old man recovered. The old man was extremely grateful. And when he'd recovered from the heat, he got up and said, "John, I've got to tell you,
Everyone says you mean old so-and-so, but you've treated me as good as anyone possibly could. That's going to stand you in good stead, because I'm not what I look like. And it was St. Peter. As a reward for how good you are to a good old stranger, I'm going to give you 3 wishes. Any old thing whatsoever you want. Just tell me and it'll be so. Well, John looked at the old man, who now had a faint but noticeable halo, plus a bit of white shining through the seam of his old patched coat, and said, "Anything I want?" And Sir Peter replied, "Anything at all. I can make it happen." Now, if you remember what I said earlier, you know that John was a mighty peculiar about his tools and his shop in general. So it won't surprise you that John took a long, hard look around his shop, squinting at the corners, humming and hawing, and scratching his head. Walking around at least twice to glance over at St. Pete and said, "Only 3, right?" Picking up things and putting them down and so on. Before he looked at St. Peter and square in the face and said, "All right, wish number 1. That rocking chair you're sitting in was made to fit me exactly. I don't mind you sitting in it, not for a second, but it gripes me to death when some lazy boot scuffer comes in and kicks back in my chair when I'm tired and ready to sit a spell. I want you to make sure that anyone that sits in the chair besides me has to rock until I tell them they can get up." St. Peter's smile faded a bit, but he snapped his fingers and said, "Okay, there you go. Now you've got 2 wishes left. Choose them well." John smiled a bit with the corner of his mouth and said, "It bugs the heck out of me when kids come here and take my good hammer when I'm not looking. They bang on the anvil and throw it to the ground, and one of the little cusses actually took it out in the road and hit rocks with it. I hereby wish that anyone who picks up my hammer besides me has to hit what I tell them until I tell them they can quit." St. Peter pulled a sad face and said, "Now, John, that's not nice, but I respect a man's tools. I don't like to, but there you go." And he blinked hard. "It's done. Now, what do you want? What else do you want? Gold, a bottomless bag of riddance? I can do anything. You've only got 1 wish left. Better make it a good one, because I got to tell you, I don't like the way you're going so far." This made John think a little bit harder. He pulled his mouth a bit and finally said, "Pete, I don't have anything else against anyone. I just want what I want, and I don't want anyone to run over me like I wasn't anyone. Did you see that big old rose book beside the shop door when you came in?" St. Peter relaxed a bit and said, "Oh, yes, it's a beauty. I bet you want me to make it bloom all year round, don't you? That'll be real nice. Man upstairs won't mind at all," John replied. "No," John replied. "I don't want it to bloom all the time. That wouldn't look right. I've had it up to here where folks come and buy and rip them a bunch of flowers off when they want to look all fancy, or when some young bunk wants to buy a flower for his girl. I want you to make it so that that rose bush will grab anyone who tries to pull a branch off it. Pull them into the middle and waller them until in the stickers until I say they can go." Well, St. Peter just about cried. He begged John to choose something else, or to limit the damage to 1 sticker per person, or something. But John wouldn't budge. St. Peter begged and he pleaded. He reasoned and he hollered. He even pointed out that his boss would not be at all amused, but nothing would make John change his mind. So finally, Peter gave in. He got a strange look like he was doing something unpleasant, closed his eyes, sighed long and hollow, and looked at John. "John, I'll tell you. I thought those folks who said you were mean were wrong after the way you treated me, but now I'm not so sure. But a promise is a promise, and we now have to both live with it. A deal is a deal, and this one is done. I hope you turn out all right, but I've got to go now. I'll see you in a few years." The years went by, as years tends to do, and eventually folks learned to leave John and his shop alone. Of course, his reputation as mean old so-and-so just got worse as years went by, even though folks forgot exactly why. They just knew not to bother him. Eventually, as with all mortals, John's time on earth grew nigh. His reputation spread far and wide so that even the devil had heard about the cranky old smith. The devil decided John would be a good man to have in hell. And he didn't learn from the last blacksmith he messed with. The devil decided John would be a good man in hell to keep the place in order. So all the little demons and imps were getting out of hand, and old Satan had heard that no child dared darken the door of John Smith's shop. So he called the younger of his 2 boys and said, "Son, I want you to go upstairs and get old John the blacksmith. I want him down here. His time's up." So the little devil went up to get John, and he found John working at his anvil with his back to the door, paying no attention to whoever walks in. "Hey, John Smith," the little devil hollered. "Daddy said you got to come with me. Your time here's done. So come on now. We got to go." John looked round to see who said that, and when he saw who it was, he said, "I'll be with you in a minute. I told a man I'd have this job done today. I'm almost through. So why don't you have a seat in that old rocking chair and I'll come with you when I finish. Well, the little devil hopped right up in that chair. And as soon as he did, that chair started whipping him back and forth like a leaf in a hurricane. So fast he couldn't even see straight. Hey, help me up. Let me up from here, the little devil yelled. John just laughed. The little devil threatened and cussed, but John laughed louder. After about an hour of yells and cusses kind of faded out. After 2 hours, a shaky little voice from the blur of the rocker said, "Hey, Mr. John, can I please get up from here?" John thought for a minute and asked, "Do you promise if I left you up, you'll go away and never come back?" The little voice from the blur said, "Yes, sir." Then so John stopped the chair and let the little devil go. Now, Satan, of course, was pretty mad that his little son couldn't get John, so he didn't want to go up himself since he was too busy roasting some former politicians. So he called up his older son, "Junior, get up there and get John. Don't sit in that chair." So the older devil strode into John's shop in a cloud of sulphurous smoke, not realizing a blacksmith would hardly be impressed by that, and yelled out in the fiercest voice he could muster, "John Smith, you ought to come with me right now." John looked at the bigger devil child up and down and said, "Tell you what, you come here and swing this hammer for me and I'll be done in no time. Then I'll go with you." "No tricks?" the devil asked. "Nope, just need a hand," said John. So the bigger devil grabbed the hammer away from John without so much of a gimme that and started pounding away on the work John was holding. Of course, he couldn't stop. This is before the time of small power hammers, so John really put the bigger devil through his paces. John and the bigger devil made 47 sets of horseshoes, 28 fire pokers, 16 coat hooks, 10 sets of single tree irons, 5 felling axes, 3 hoes, pointed 2 plows, one of them cold just as they did it. Just for the fun, he started a life-size ram head out of 4-inch square bar of merchant iron, and the bigger devil hollering and screaming the whole time. When the bigger devil got real quiet, John stopped pumping the bellows to see what was wrong. And through the ringing of the anvil, he heard a low voice say, "Mr. Smith, please let me stop. I won't take you down with me. I just want to go home." "Promise?" John asked. "Yes, sir." So John let him go. Well, if the devil thought he was peeved when his little boy came back, when the old one came back, his arm still jerking up and down and his horns ringing softly like a tuning fork, old Satan had to do a major rethink. "Boys," he shouted, "I'm going up there myself. I aim to put John in the deepest, hottest pit we have, so get it ready." John was sweeping up a knee-pile high of scale from around his anvil when the door of the shop blew in. A thunderclap rolled through the building, blowing the pile of scale all over the room, and that would really, really annoy me. Satan himself stalked in like the Lord of Evil he is. "John Smith, you're coming with me right now, and I ain't going to help you with anything. No chairs, no hammers, no nothing. You've done tricked my boys, and you ain't tricking me. Let's go." So John looked at Satan, huffed a little bit, and quietly said, "You ain't so big." Well, a thunder rolled again, and Satan drew himself up a bit more and said, "I ain't I? I'll show you. I'm going to grab me a switch off this here bit old rose bush and tan your hide till there ain't nothing left but strips of jerky with some grease on them." John just spit at the devil's feet and said, "You ain't man enough to do it, you old so-and-so." Tornadoes and hurricanes don't begin to describe the noise the devil made for the biggest, thorniest branch in the rose bush decided to break it off. Of course, the bush grabbed right back and pulled the devil into the midst of its bush and commenced flogging, poking, and sticking old Satan with every sticker and a branch in the whole bush, which covered the entire side of the shop from the roadside to the roof floor to the roof peak. The commotion was so dreadful the people in the whole valley ran away thinking sure it was the end of the world. As for John, he just laughed. 3 days later, John was coming into work when a little voice from the middle of the rose bush asked, "John, it's me, your old pal Satan. If I agree to go away, will you agree not to tell anyone about this little incident? I won't bother you ever again. I swear. Just please let me go." So John let him go and kept on living for a number of years until he was too tired of living to keep on at it. In fact, when he finally died, he went up to heaven and knocked at the pearly gates, and Peter looked out and said, "John, I hate to tell you, but the big man just about busted me to halo shining duty for giving you such awful wishes. You aren't allowed up here at all. Just follow that path up off to the side. They'll take you down below, I'm sure." John just shrugged and walked off down the road to hell. And when he was getting close to the gates, Just where he could read the sign about abandoning hope, the littlest devil child poked his head out, saw John, and ran back inside screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, that awful old John's here." Satan himself came and barred the gates and said, "I'm sorry, John, I just can't let you in here. I'm afraid you'll tag over. Now get." John shrugged again and walked off. I don't know for sure, but I've heard that he started his own place to go, and where he could do whatever he wanted to do, and nobody ever bothered him. If you happen to find him, just remember what I told you. Be nice. So there is a heaven for blacksmiths.
Heaven don't want them, hell can't handle them.
Exactly. It's the heaven for blacksmiths. It's all of our own.
Yeah. Oh, lovely story.
So that was story time with Adam.
Yeah, and Yama is listening intently. I hate to do it to all of you avid listeners, but it is about that time. Time for some quick final thoughts, and then we gotta roll. We gotta call that a day. I will be on tonight. I'll run my chords out there, and I'm gonna be, like I said earlier, I will be making a rose. I've already textured it, so I would just have to assemble it tonight and decorate it, but it'll be fun. So yeah. Yeah, I got a game event to set up. But yeah. Final thoughts? You want to play us out, keyboard cat? Or no, you talked all the I'll do my final thoughts and you do your final thoughts. You just talk for an hour.
Fine.
Fine. It's Halloween is my favorite time of the year and my favorite holiday. We've got 2 more days, and then I can finally stop being grumpy about all the places decorating for Christmas already. And unfortunately, but fortunately for Roy, in 2 days, that's when all the Christmas commercials start on TV and the radio, and places start playing Mariah Carey. She awakens from the pit and is here to take over. But yeah, that's coming. It is inevitable. Mariah Carey is inevitable. You hear them sleigh bells and you just go, oh shit. The opening. What was that?
I said Michael Bublé comes out from his cave as well.
Yeah. But yeah, so with that, thank you all for putting up with us, and thank you all for supporting us. We love you. I believe Jack Pines is going live in an hour, so go check out Jack Pines Blacksmithing, and thank you also for supporting the blacksmith community. I will see you at 6, and here's Adam again.
So my final thoughts. This actually comes from Wilson. This comes from Wilson this week. It was a little bit of a conversation that we had. Yeah. A little bit of a conversation we had before we went live. Actually, when he came out to the workshop, now anyone that watched the live stream or seen my photos on Instagram would have known that that Wilson's a darker skinned fellow, and of course, being Kenyan, he has the skin tone of that part of the world. That's natural to that part of the world, and he come out and he stood beside the forge, and I'd warned him before he came out. I said, look, there's a good likelihood that you're going to get sunburned. And he said to me, I can't get sunburned, I'm black. And I said to him, you'd be surprised. So anyway, when he came out on Wednesday, he said, 2 days after I left the workshop last time, he goes, I was looking in the mirror and I realized one side of my body was darker than the other. He goes, I can't believe it. He goes, I didn't think I could get any darker. So on that note, doesn't matter if you're fair-skinned or dark-skinned, I recommend that if you're going to spend some time at the forge, put on some sunscreen, particularly if it's solid fuel forge, because it does emit UVA and UVB, which causes sunburn, because we're basically burning stuff at the temperatures that are very, very high enough to. Some people compare it to the surface of the sun, so put some sunscreen on. Make sure you protect yourself. Wear your PPE, and get out there and forge something. So thank you very much for joining us. You can find Yamez on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You can find Alexis at Transcendental Artist Studios on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And you can find me, Adam, at Speargrass Forge on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Don't forget, if you have any suggestions for Tool of the Week, Metal of the Week, or any other topic, you can leave it under the hashtag Metal of the Week in the YouTube community chat on Discord, or you can email us at impracticalblacksmith@gmail.com. If you found us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Google Podcast, we generally upload every Wednesday, or you can join us live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's currently 11:30 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time. But check that against your local time, and that's at Island Metal Forge YouTube channel. Finally, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. If you're listening on the podcast, don't forget to leave us a star rating. We really do appreciate it. And on that note, we'll catch you all next week for the new topic of what are we doing for November, Yamez?
That's in November. I have no idea. No, we've got it timelined out. I just can't remember it right now. Stop putting me on the spot.
I did that on purpose. You need to do your research, Yamez. Come on.
You know I've got a joke lined up. Stop putting me on the spot with something else. All right.
What's your joke?
You'll see. It will happen. Well, thank you all for showing up. We're going to go ahead and call that a show. Merkin.